Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of Let's Not Meet. My voice may sound different in this video. That is because one, I have to hold my microphone in my hands because my desk at this hotel is too dummy thick to support the arm that I usually use for my microphone. And also it's very late at night, so I might have to be a little bit extra quiet. But having said that, let's get into these stories. I'm going to exclude the title of this one to avoid spoilers. This just happened a few days ago and I'm extremely shaken up. Some backstory. I live on the second floor of a 3-level apartment. We have a crawl space that connects all of the apartments. We aren't sure why it's there, but we all have stuff in it and none of us would ever attempt to go inside of it, so we still felt pretty safe. The other night, the sun was setting, but it wasn't pitch black out or anything yet. I'm walking through my living room when I see a short woman on my fire escape looking into my windows. This is extremely bizarre considering it's still semi-light out and she had to literally go onto our fire escape somehow. We have 2 windows that the fire escape reaches, and she was looking in both but didn't see me. I crawled onto the ground and my heart was racing as I watched her try to open the windows. I didn't know what to do because my phone was in the other room. After what seemed like an eternity, she finally left. I went into my room to get my phone to text my landlord and call the cops. I came back into the living room and was looking out the windows to see if I could locate her when all of a sudden I hear a weird noise coming from the ceiling. We have one of those tile ceilings made out of separate slabs of cork/wood. I look up to see one of the slabs lifted up and 2 eyes staring at me. I have no clue how she got into the crawl space so quickly, but I grabbed the nearest thing next to me, which was a broom, and started hitting her with it through the ceiling and called the cops as soon as she crawled away. They showed up and searched the place, but didn't find her until a few days later when she was on someone else's fire escape. The cops said that she was definitely on some hard drugs and that she was violent towards them. I'm glad she's gone, but whoever that crazy lady that came through my ceiling was, let's not meet again. This is actual nightmare fuel. The idea of somebody hiding out in a place in your house you don't check often, or like a place in your house you didn't even realize existed, is one of the most terrifying things I can imagine. I would suggest like having a camera at the entrance to a place like that and getting footage, because even as terrifying as that footage would be to look back on, it'd be good to know what was going on. Adult film actors go through real-life horror. I'll go ahead and be blunt. I make small personal videos and upload them to a few platforms for a few bucks here and there. It isn't an ego thing, just a small hobby I find interesting. My first month or two I uploaded most everything to a Tumblr account. I never made it onto huge cam shows or anything. It also allowed for messages that I occasionally replied to. It went smooth for the first while, until I ended up getting a message for an account whose username was pretty much jargon. It was something pretty normal. Hey, looking for a boyfriend? Which I promptly replied to with, no, sorry, I'm in a relationship. I appreciate the offer though. He responded with a slurry of profanities. Now, this may seem like your typical nice guy post, but it gets worse. Soon, I was getting more messages from a different account. It was graphic. He went into depth about how he was going to stalk and promptly assault me. It was sickening, but I dropped it because it was on Tumblr and he couldn't possibly find me. That's where I was wrong. Within the week, I was getting hundreds of messages. I had to mute notifications because they blew up my phone. All unique messages, which were all gross. They got worse, however. He detailed how he would study my behavior to learn my nightmare and use it against me. At that point, I was angry but stuck. I couldn't fight back, so I ignored them. Sadly, I made the mistake of posting my face at a diner in my hometown. It was a quick snapshot I had taken at a hole-in-the-wall restaurant and made a comment about the food. He took this as an invitation and reverse image searched it. I had also posted it to Facebook, which contained my hometown, school address, and personal life. He messaged me from an account with yet another nonsense name. That's how I knew I messed up. He told me he knew where I was from because of the photo and I'd regret rejecting him. I snapped and said I'd call the cops if he kept acting this way. Well, he didn't stop. He actually went the extra mile and headed to my hometown. He showed up at my part-time job. Lucky for me, I wasn't at work that day. Another coworker came into contact with him and he begged for me to come to the front. He got angry when she refused to say when I would come in. Cops were called and horny psycho was finally arrested. The saddest part was when I was interviewed, I learned that he had 2 children in a functioning marriage. His wife knew nothing of this behavior. I've gone through quite a few pervy incidents, but this one was by far the worst. So, Mr. Perv, let's not meet again. I think this is a great example of how quickly the internet and real life can collide and have really unexpected results. This is why a lot of people, I feel like, are deciding to be on just Twitter and Instagram instead of Facebook, because Facebook just seems to be this huge place where all of your private information is held, unless you have like a private account, which I would highly recommend you all have. It's crazy to think that this dude was walking around with a wife and kids and doing stuff like this and nobody knew. I sincerely hope that he's locked up for a long time and isn't able to do anything like this to anyone else in the future. Face to face. This may not be the creepiest story, but I still kick myself for my stupidity during this event. This happened during the summer when I was 14, about 16 years ago. My parents had just moved me to the new house they had built in a rural part of Pennsylvania. It was 2004 and the housing market hadn't crashed yet, so our new house was one of the first in this brand spanking new neighborhood. I hadn't started school yet in my new town, so I had no friends to really hang out with that summer. I spent a lot of time just hanging out with my mom, taking drives around our new area, and staying up and watching movies. One night in early August, we had just finished watching something and were getting ready to go to bed. It was one of those summer nights that caused the windows to fog up from cool air inside. You couldn't see anything out the windows unless you pressed your face to them. As we turned everything in the downstairs off, we saw headlights come down our street. Mind you, it was about 1 a.m. in a brand new neighborhood with about 4 houses in it and maybe 2 more under construction. We didn't have neighbors at this point, and there was literally no reason for someone to be on our street unless they were A, lost, or B, looking to steal stuff. We hope it's A and keep going about our business to get ready for bedtime. And then we see the reflection of another light outside our house, and it wasn't car lights. Once again, we can't see out our fogged windows, so me being a curious 14-year-old, I walked right up to the front door and pressed my face to the window, and immediately fell right to the floor. There was a face staring back at me. My mom asked me what was wrong and I just started stammering. Then my adrenaline kicked in. I ran to the kitchen and opened the knife drawer. I pulled out a butcher knife and walked back to the front door. I'm still shaking from basically being nose to nose with a stranger, and my 14-year-old brain thought this was a great idea. I flung open the front door and wielded the butcher knife, and to my shock and surprise, I see not 1 but 3 full-grown men outside, and my dumbass just ran full speed towards them with a butcher knife over my head. And they ran. I mean, they booked it while yelling a very audible, "Holy shit." And then my mother called the police while yelling at me for being such a dumbass. But despite my stupidity in the situation, I've always been slightly proud of 3 grown men being afraid of a tiny 14-year-old girl wielding a butcher's knife. So let's not meet. I really like how this story has a comedic ending to it. I mean, you'd think that 3 full-grown criminals could handle a 14-year-old girl with a butcher knife, but my guess is that they weren't expecting anybody to be home, and they were just hoping to, like, break in and ransack the house, but I can't imagine what was going through their heads. Sorry for the slightly shorter edition of Let's Not Meet this time. I'm on kind of like a working vacation, so let me know if you have any tips for how to deal with this like handheld mic situation and to deal with the echo of this room, because I'm gonna be in this hotel room for like the next 6 days. But skate on to the best of your abilities, guys. I really hope you're all doing very well out there and drinking more water, all that good stuff. I'll see you very soon. Peace.